Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Under Construction from Pain to Purpose. I'm Ashlee Crouse and I'm one of your hosts, and with me,
I'm Jessica Stanley and I'm one of your hosts.
we just want to really jump on here to say thank you for the overwhelming support and feedback that we've gotten since we have literally just started this journey. We're like 2.5 episodes in, and the support that has been flooding in is just, it's amazing, and we hear you. We've gotten so many different people reaching out, asking to be a part of this, and our goal is to sit down with anybody and everybody. And so today we're kind of just jumping on here to talk about our why we've decided to start this. And so, Jess, I'm going to start with you. What is your why for wanting to, for us to jump into this podcast together?
I think first, I also want to say thank you to our supporters. It really does mean a lot to us. We have worked together over the years for the past 7 years. And so, a lot of what we were kind of talking about earlier while we were working, we were talking about how our professional and our personal lives seem to often merge. And I think that's just due to, the nature of the work. We're also in recovery. We are friends with a lot of people that we work with, whether it's our agency or other agencies. So I think it's almost impossible to completely separate the two. But one of the biggest things for me, especially with being able to do this podcast, is when we think about, why we want to do something. I know that with me and Ashlee specifically, when there is something that we want to do, there's always a purpose behind it. And so over the years, we have found that, God has used our pain to turn it into a purpose, which is why we ended up, with the From Pain to Purpose. But I think what I want to talk about a little bit is the under construction piece. For me, a long time ago, there was a little meme on Facebook, and it said, be like Alcoa Highway and never stop working on yourself. And so it just had always reminded me of this constant way that we're continuing to work on ourselves, and with the work that we do, the personal lives, of being in recovery, we're just constantly under construction. We are not a finished project yet, so that's where we kind of, when we were looking at what we wanted to name this and what kind of catchphrase or whatever that looks like, when we were talking about that, we're like, when we hear it, we'll know. So of course we're Googling and we're trying to put stuff together. And so when that come up, we just knew that was it, under construction. So we are always constantly working on ourselves and using that pain and turn it into purpose. But I know specifically for me, especially with this podcast in general, my why of being a part of this is because we have been extremely blessed with the platforms and the followings that we have acquired over the years. It is insane the amount of people and places that we have reached and trained and educated and built relationships with, that has led to us having, a lot of support. And so I think that for us, we are very much people that advocate for other people. So I know that, with me, my why is being able to use my voice and my platform for other people to join in on that. Because, one of the things that we talk about in recovery a lot is, we can't keep what we have unless we give it away. And I feel like that ties into these platforms. People hear us, people watch the work that we do, they reach out. It's a constant, it's just a constant reminder of when you're doing the next right thing, and the way that you are truly living, it just shows in many areas. And so I'm excited to see what this podcast turns into. But like I was talking about yesterday, it's not a monetary value. This is more personal. This is extremely personal. And I just can't wait to see what this becomes for other people to use their voice. So we had a pretty exciting conversation with a first responder earlier, and we will have him on soon as well. And so I just think that being able to have those different perspectives on what is going on, the type of work that we all do, the personal lives that we lead, I think that substance use has just blown up so much that it's no longer areas that aren't affected or certain types of people, right? So I think just being that close and being able to have that support and talk to different people in the community, I think it's going to be really cool. I think what we're going to see is going to be amazing, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. But I think that is definitely my why, is for you all. That's my why for being here. So what about you, Ashlee? What makes you excited to do this and makes you feel like this is truly my why?
Well, for one, I think, being a person in recovery and being very vocal and loud about it, and learning that being loud opens up the doors for others to step in and access resources and support. And so advocating, not only for myself, but also for others, through the work that we do. I have personally walked through some hardships. I lost a sister to a drug overdose last year, and I love doing advocacy around stigma work, the language we use, and when talking about individuals. But I think for that moment, when my sister passed, I felt stigma around it. Myself personally, how are people going to look at me? Because I do the work that I do, but yet I lost a family member, and it really hit home for me that families experience something completely different than the individuals that are going through it. And so, for me, it's personal, because I really want to help families, for one, realize that it's not a bad thing. Yeah. It's a painful thing, yes, but I want families to know that there's support, that they're loved, that they're heard. We've learned through my own personal journey and the work that we do that it's not something that just affects the individual using it. It affects the family. It affects the community. And so, through this work, when we know better, we do better. So when people are getting to use their voice in a powerful way, it lessens anxiety, it lessens stigma, it opens the door for other family members to step up and say, hey, I've got a loved one struggling. What can I do to help them? Yeah. And so my why is just to continue to bring awareness, but also bring that platform to give others to really start the healing process. Because I've learned, you can stuff it all day long, but you've got to learn to talk through it. For me, talking through some of those hard moments that I've walked through has allowed me to walk into a place of healing. And I didn't realize how much I needed to be able to have that platform to be able to share my own personal experience. And so for me, it is just opening that door for others and walk along beside them, whether that be sit down and have a conversation, sit down and cry with them, because I'm an emotional wreck most days anyways, just because it's so personal and it's so purposeful, the work that we do. I've wanted to do a podcast for so long, and I truly believe that God's given me a platform to be able to share that with others, not just hold on to it for myself.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things to highlight is when you're talking about that pain, it is this gut-wrenching pain, and so with the pain to purpose, what we look at often is, what can I do with that pain, right? So we can either use that for the greater good, we can sit and dwell in it. And so, we know how both of those are going to lead. So I think to highlight that, we have taken that pain and been able to use it to help other people. But, one of the things that we talk about often, especially in my job, when we're looking at overdose data, right? So say we get a thing that says we've had 100 overdose deaths, right? One of the biggest things that we talk about is that's not just 100 people. Yeah. Imagine if just those 100 people had 5 family members apiece, right? That is, boom, automatically 500 family members affected, right? So then you have families that get stuck in this pain. They're feeling this shame and guilt. They're feeling embarrassed, or maybe they've experienced that stigma at some point. Maybe they don't understand. They don't know where to turn, what to do. And so being able to, I really think that we have been blessed over the years to see many different perspectives. Because I know that when I first started doing this work, all I cared about was my perspective. I wanted everybody in the world to hear me and what I had been through, but I wasn't willing to hear my family and what they had been through, or what Jessica had put anybody else through. I wasn't willing to hear that because nobody was listening to Jessica, right? Yeah. Well, of course they're not listening to Jessica. Look at what Jessica had done over the years, right? So I think being able to see all those different perspectives, and family being one of those, you know, that's been incredible. And same thing with the first responder that we talked to earlier. They're experiencing a lot of compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
Like they, you know, and I think it's important that a lot of stigma work is being done within that community. Communities are healing, people are pulling together, you know, and a lot of our first responders are really incredible. And we've seen this big shift in the stigma in our community. And there's still so much work to be done, but I think being able to have a front row seat in other people's perspectives, I really think that has helped us make more of an impact doing things in the community.
Yeah, no, I agree. To see now, like law enforcement and first responders, you know, now on the front lines of like, what can we do to help?
Mm-hmm.
I know when I first started in this field, even working with medical professionals, at times just I felt so defeated. There was so much stigma around it, and now like years down the road, getting to see them like excited about the recovery work and planning recovery events, it's just, you know, as a community, like we might struggle together, but we can heal together.
Yeah.
And it literally, it's a ripple effect. You know, just like substance misuse, you know, affects the whole community. Imagine what that healing looks like when we heal together as a community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I often think about, and I know that we talk about this a lot, is how we trauma bonded. You know, when we first started working together, it was a completely different time, and so we had also we were both very closed-minded, stuck on this is my recovery path, this is my recovery path, this one's right, no, this one's right. And so, you know, that was again back to the I don't want to hear anybody else because you don't hear me. And so when we first met, not only were we sitting in that, we also were dealing with a lot of stigma from medical professionals, from, you know, first responders that were working in the emergency rooms and stuff. And then on top of that, we were seeing a lot of traumatic things. We were having, you know, there were individuals that ended up on life support. There were people in there that had like drug use associated illnesses, and they ended up dying after that had been a patient that we were seeing every single day for the past 6 weeks. And next thing you know, you come in for a shift and, you know, the nurses have to let you know that they died. Going through all that on top of, keep in mind this was a level 1 trauma center. So not only were we experiencing that stigma, then we were experiencing the trauma that we were seeing with the patients, and then on top of that, we also were seeing traumatic things that we didn't sign up to see. I know one of them specifically was when those tornadoes hit Cookeville.
Yeah.
All of everyone that was injured and things like that, they were rerouted to the hospital that we were working at that point in time. So we had to stay there all day and see this. It feels like a movie sometimes when I think back to what we used to see in the emergency room. And so I think that we ended up being a safe place for each other.
No,
and
I
so
agree.
that's why, you know, you'll see me on here all the time putting hashtags and using safe place. And that's why, because we became that for each other. And so like now, like we want to be that for you all.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of pretty much is speaking volumes on, you know, our why are we doing this?
Yeah, letting folks know you don't have to go through this alone, I think is so important, because it's so easy to get stuck in that. I don't want to burden somebody. I don't want to, you know, take anybody's time, but it's important. Like support, that's one area that we do a lot of advocacy for, especially being peers in long-term recovery, is you got to have support. I mean, it's just, you have to.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes because, you know, we had walked through some of the traumatic things that we did, we thought, well, we don't need the support. But at the end of the day, like you have to. I mean, for me,
it's a game changer.
Yeah, it is a game changer. So that like, now we have an amazing support. And so that being the first time that we have had that, it's a little scary and a little uncomfortable at times.
No, come here. Speaking of support.
Like our support literally just walked in the door, which is huge. And so like Miss Ann here has become like our safe place. So when we are struggling, or, you know, we just, you know, we have bad days, we're humans, and we have to acknowledge that. Like we can sit down with Ann and say, hey, like I'm on the struggle bus today and I just need somebody to talk to. And so that's why we advocate for folks in our community, because we all need that support from time to time.
Thanks.
Would you like to be a special guest and chime in on support?
On support?
Yes.
It's imperative.
Yeah.
We can't give away what we don't have.
She
said
just
it.
said it.
I said it.
So yeah, she's right.
See?
We can't give away what we don't have. So we've got to be able to take care of ourselves, get back what we give, and have those people in our lives that we can count on to lift us up and to see that we're in need and help us.
Absolutely.
It's imperative. That's how we make it.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is.
And now that y'all have heard from the OG herself,
Going on, what,
we look
39
forward
years?
to seeing y'all on our next episode.
Until next time.